Flashes. That was all Cha Jun-suk could see, white, burning camera flashes cutting through the thick air of the Seoul International Business Hall. Reporters were yelling, microphones were shoving toward his face, and somewhere on the giant screen behind him blazed the words he could never erase. Cha Jun-suk, infertile at 48. He had faced business wars, stock crashes, and betrayals that would break any man, but nothing compared to this. The shame felt heavier than his billions. He stood motionless, expression calm, tailored black suit immaculate, but deep inside, his chest was collapsing. "Is it true, Mr. Cha?" A female reporter screamed. "You can't have children? Were the women right when they said you're broken?" Another shouted, laughter echoing around him. The microphones crowded closer. A few journalists tried to be respectful, but others enjoyed the spectacle. They had waited years for this, the fall of Seoul's most mysterious billionaire heir. Jun-suk's lips curved into a polite half-smile. "No comment," he said softly, the same line he had rehearsed in the mirror that morning. His voice was calm, controlled, but when he blinked, his eyes burned. He turned and walked off the stage while the crowd chanted his name like a joke. That night, his penthouse overlooked a glowing city that didn't care if he existed or not. He sat by the glass wall with a drink untouched on the table. His mansion was silent except for the hum of the city and the faint classical music playing through his phone. He had everything: companies in 5 countries, cars, watches, power. But in Korea, a man without children was a man without a legacy. He was wealth without purpose. He reached for a framed photo on the table. His late father, the empire builder, the man who had said, "A Cha must always leave a seed." A bitter smile crossed Jun-suk's face. "Sorry, father. I failed." The words trembled out of him like a confession. And for the first time in months, the billionaire who pretended to be made of stone cried quietly. His tears fell onto the marble floor, mixing with the reflection of the Seoul skyline. The next morning, his assistant found him already dressed in a navy suit, pretending as if the night before never happened. "Sir, the press wants another statement," the assistant said gently. "Tell them to go to hell," Jun-suk replied, adjusting his tie. "We have a hospital to fund today." He smiled, even joked a little, because that was how he survived. No one knew that every fake smile cost him a piece of his heart. At the hospital's charity wing opening, nurses lined up in their white uniforms. Among them was Charity Nwosu, a beautiful black nurse from Kenya, radiant and calm, her dark skin glowing under the Seoul sunlight. She had come to Korea 3 years ago for work, and her laughter could melt the tension in any room. When Jun-suk entered, the nurses whispered excitedly. Everyone knew the billionaire. Charity, however, barely looked up. She was busy helping a patient into a wheelchair. That small indifference caught his attention. "Excuse me," he said, his deep voice echoing softly. "Are you not going to take a picture with me like the others?" Charity looked up, surprised. "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought billionaires preferred fans, not people who actually work." Her tone was teasing but respectful. For the first time that week, Jun-suk laughed. A real laugh. Days turned into weeks. He kept visiting the hospital, pretending to inspect the facility. But everyone knew he was just there for the nurse who didn't bow like everyone else. Charity teased him endlessly. "You come here more than the patients, Mr. Cha," she'd say. "Maybe I'm sick," he'd answer. "Oh, really? What's the illness?" "Loneliness," he'd whisper. She rolled her eyes but blushed anyway. He never told her about the scandal. He never mentioned the headlines, the humiliation, or the cruel nickname people had given him. The infertile heir. He just said he'd been single because love never fit into my calendar. And Charity believed him. She saw a kind man hidden behind the billionaire mask. Someone gentle, funny, and heartbreakingly human. One rainy night, he invited her to dinner in his penthouse. Seoul glittered below them, rain streaking the windows as soft jazz played in the background. Charity wore a simple blue dress, and he couldn't take his eyes off her. "Do people ever get tired of pretending they're fine?" she asked suddenly. He froze. "What do you mean?" "I see it every day at work. People hide pain behind polite smiles. You do that too." He looked away, heart pounding. For once, he had no words. Charity reached across the table, took his hand, and smiled. You don't have to tell me. Just don't stop living. Those words broke the wall he had built around himself. One thing led to another. The soft touch of her hand, the sound of rain, her laughter, his trembling breath. And that night, for the first time in years, Cha Jun-suk felt alive. 2 months later, Seoul woke up to chaos. Black nurse claims she's pregnant with Sejun Jun-suk's twins, screamed the headlines. Every TV station played the same footage. Charity walking confidently into a prenatal clinic, cameras chasing her. While Jun-suk's company's stock dropped like a rock, reporters laughed again. Impossible, one analyst said on live TV. That man can't father children. Everyone knows that. Another added, it must be someone else's. Maybe she's after his money. Jun-suk's board members called him urgently. Sir, we must deny it. But he refused. No, she's telling the truth. The media went mad. People mocked her online. Memes flooded the internet. Charity called a gold digger, him called a fool. Still, Charity never hid. She showed up at the hospital daily, belly growing, smiling proudly. When reporters shouted, "Are you sure it's his?" she'd reply boldly, "Maybe your brain needs a DNA test. Not my baby's." She became a sensation. Koreans called her the fearless foreign nurse. Behind closed doors, though, Jun-suk finally broke down. He confessed to her everything. The false medical report, the years of humiliation, the tears nobody saw. She listened quietly, then held his hand. We'll prove them wrong, my love. Not with words, with our babies. But behind all the chaos, one dark truth was waiting to explode. Because somewhere in Seoul, the doctor who declared Jun-suk infertile was watching the news with a nervous smirk. His secret wasn't buried yet. And soon, it would destroy everything. The next few weeks in Seoul felt like war. Every screen, every phone, every headline screamed the same thing. Billionaire Cha Jun-suk's impossible babies. Outside Cha Enterprises Tower, news vans lined the street like vultures. Inside, his boardroom burned with tension. Executives whispered. Reporters hovered. And everyone waited for the man who had always walked like a god to stumble. Jun-suk entered without a word. His navy suit was sharp, his eyes colder than the polished table. Sir, one director began nervously. The shareholders want you to deny. I won't, he said flatly. She's telling the truth. But, sir, the tests years ago were lies. His tone was final. If the company collapses because I chose honesty, then it deserves to. Silence filled the room. No one dared speak again. That afternoon, Charity arrived through the storm of microphones. Her beige trench coat couldn't hide the small curve of her belly. Flashbulbs burst, and questions flew like bullets. Miss Charity, whose babies are they really? Did you plan this? Is he paying you? She paused at the top of the marble stairs, sunlight catching her dark skin. Then she smiled. Not the nervous smile they expected, but one that carried fire. You can ask all your silly questions, she said, voice clear. But I only answer to love and to God. The reporters froze. That clip would replay on Korean television for weeks. Upstairs, Jun-suk was watching the live broadcast. For the first time since the scandal began, his lips curved into a real smile. He met her at the elevator doors before they opened. You didn't have to face them alone, he said softly. I wasn't alone, she replied. Your babies were kicking the whole time. They seemed to enjoy the attention. He laughed, short, broken, but genuine. You're unbelievable. And you love that about me, she teased. The months that followed turned Seoul into a circus. Internet gossip called her the foreign miracle. Talk shows debated whether black genes could somehow awaken fertility. Jun-suk ignored it all. He spent nights studying prenatal books, watching her sleep beside him, wondering how he had ever survived without her calm laughter filling the house. But not everyone was silent. His uncle, Chairman Cha Gwang-ho, the patriarch who still ruled the family's empire, called a private meeting. Do you understand what you're doing? The old man thundered. You're destroying your reputation for some foreign nurse. She's my wife-to-be, Jun-suk answered evenly. She's ruining you. No, uncle, he said, voice firm. You ruined me when you let that doctor brand me a failure. The room went still. Guang Ho's eyes widened, realizing his nephew knew more than he should. A week later, a rumor leaked that the doctor who had diagnosed him years ago had a history of falsifying results. The media went wild again. Journalists dug into medical archives, old court cases, and patient complaints. Each discovery painted a darker picture. Charity never hid from the storm. She walked to work with her head high, belly growing rounder, answering every rude comment with humor. One reporter yelled, "Miss Charity, what if the babies look nothing like him?" She grinned. "Then maybe they look like his money, since you all love it so much." Her clapbacks trended online under the hashtag #CharitySpeaksFacts. At 7 months pregnant, she collapsed at the hospital during a press ambush. Cameras caught Jun-suk running through the corridor in panic, shouting her name. He stayed by her bedside for 2 nights straight, holding her hand as machines beeped softly. "Why are you crying?" she whispered weakly when she woke. "Because I can't lose you." "You won't," she murmured. "Not even gossip can kill love this stubborn." He kissed her hand. "Rest, my miracle." 2 months later, Seoul witnessed the storm's climax. The National Medical Council released a statement, confirming that Dr. Han Jae-woon, the same doctor who had declared Cha Jun-suk infertile 20 years earlier, had falsified over 40 test results for personal amusement. Police raided his clinic live on television. Every news anchor's tone shifted from mockery to shock. By evening, reporters were gathered outside Cha Enterprises again, but this time their voices trembled with apology. Inside the penthouse, Jun-suk knelt before Charity, tears streaming down his face. "You gave me back my dignity," he said. "I thought I was cursed, and you showed me I was just waiting for the right soul." Charity cupped his face and smiled. "Then promise me one thing. Anything. When they finally see the truth, don't gloat. Just live." He nodded, pulling her into his arms as rain tapped gently on the window glass. A few weeks later, Charity went into labor. The drive to the hospital was chaos. Paparazzi tailing their car, flashes through tinted windows, reporters yelling that they'd pay anything for the first photo. But inside the delivery room, the world disappeared. "Push, Charity, push," the doctor urged. She gritted her teeth, sweat covering her forehead. Jun-suk held her hand so tight it almost hurt. "I can't," she gasped. "Yes, you can," he whispered. "You're the bravest woman I know." A cry pierced the room. Then another. 2 tiny voices, fierce and perfect. Charity burst into tears. The doctor laughed. "Congratulations, Mr. Cha. 2 healthy boys." For a long moment, Jun-suk couldn't speak. He stared at the newborns, one dark-skinned with his eyes, the other lighter with her smile, and something inside him finally healed. He bent, kissed their foreheads, and whispered, "My sons, my miracles." Outside, hundreds of cameras flashed as word spread. Charity gives birth to twin boys, proof of love shocks Korea. The same reporters who had mocked him now cheered. But inside that quiet hospital room, none of that mattered. Jun-suk wrapped an arm around Charity, who lay exhausted but glowing. "You see," she murmured, "we didn't need to prove anything." He smiled through tears. "Still, it feels good to be right." They both laughed softly as the twins whimpered between them, and for the first time, Seoul's most ridiculed billionaire felt truly rich. Morning sunlight broke across Seoul like a flashbulb. The city was still buzzing about the miracle twins. On every television set ran the same headline: "The infertile heir becomes a father. Korea in shock." Outside the hospital, flower baskets and news crews covered the parking lot. Charity watched through the glass window, her newborn sons asleep beside her. The hum of the cameras no longer scared her. It almost sounded like applause. Jun-suk entered quietly, wearing a pale blue shirt and a grin that hadn't left his face since the birth. He bent over the bassinets, touched each tiny hand, and whispered, "Appa's here." Charity smiled. "Appa, huh? That word looks good on you." He laughed softly. "I'm still getting used to it. People keep calling me the miracle man." "Let them," she said. "They mocked you long enough. Now they can write songs about you." 2 days later they left the hospital, but peace didn't last. Reporters surrounded the gate, flashes blinding, microphones waving. "Mr. Cha, Are you planning a press statement? Miss Charity, will you raise the babies in Korea? Who falsified the test? Charity raised a hand and said with her usual bold calm, please let us pass. My babies haven't even opened their Instagram accounts yet. Laughter rippled through the crowd, breaking the tension. Jun-suk squeezed her hand, proud beyond words. By evening, news networks were replaying the footage of Dr. Han's arrest. The disgraced physician hid behind his coat as detectives dragged him through the station. Former patients came forward, revealing how he'd lied for money or amusement. The nation turned furious. Commenters demanded justice. At a televised hearing, Jun-suk arrived with Charity beside him, twins safely at home with nurses. Reporters filled the hall like spectators at a match. The prosecutor's voice thundered. Dr. Han's falsified reports ruined families, reputations, and lives. When Jun-suk was called to testify, he stood tall, voice steady. For 20 years, he said, I believed I was less of a man. People laughed, investors withdrew, and women left me. But one truth beats every lie. Love gave me proof science refused to see. Cameras clicked wildly. Charity watched from the bench, tears bright in her eyes. The judge nodded, and for a heartbeat, even the reporters stayed silent. That night, they returned to the penthouse. Seoul glittered below, the twins sleeping in their nursery. Charity curled on the couch, hair tied up, bottle feeding one baby while Jun-suk rocked the other. You realize, she teased, half the women in this city now wish they'd stayed with you. He chuckled. Too late. The job's taken. Good. Because I don't share miracles. They laughed quietly, the kind of laughter that fills a home more than any luxury. But jealousy has long memories. Within a week, invitations flooded in charity galas, business dinners, messages from women who had once refused him. One even wrote publicly, I always knew he'd make a good father if given the chance. Charity read it aloud at breakfast and snorted. Oh, please. She once said you were emotionally sterile. Jun-suk nearly choked on his coffee. You read all that? Of course. I'm a nurse. I monitor symptoms of hypocrisy. He smiled. Should I reply? No, she said, leaning over to kiss his cheek. Let success answer for you. Meanwhile, the company's reputation soared. Products sold out. Magazines begged for interviews. But Jun-suk refused the circus until one evening when he and Charity agreed to appear on a national talk show. Not for gossip, but to thank the public hospitals that had supported them. Under the stage lights, Charity wore a soft ivory dress. Jun-suk sat beside her, nervous but proud. The host asked, what would you tell people who once doubted you? Charity glanced at him, then faced the camera. Don't waste your energy mocking people's pain. God writes better punchlines than humans ever could. The audience erupted in applause. Someone shouted, we love you, Nurse Charity. Another yelled, long live the miracle twins. Backstage, Jun-suk hugged her. You're a star now. She grinned. Correction, we're the story people will remember when they need hope. Weeks passed. The doctor's trial ended with a guilty verdict and a sentence that made national headlines. When the verdict was announced, Jun-suk felt the weight lift from his shoulders completely. That evening, the couple hosted a small celebration in their penthouse. No journalists, no executives. Just close friends, hospital staff, and laughter echoing through the rooms. The twins lay in their bassinets while Charity danced barefoot to an old soul song. Jun-suk watched her twirl, eyes shining. I used to think my life ended at 48. And now? She asked. Now it's just beginning. She moved close, placed a hand on his chest. That's because you finally let love in. Outside, Seoul's skyline glimmered. Inside, Charity rested the babies on her lap. One yawned, the other sneezed, and Jun-suk laughed so hard he scared them both. Two of them, he said softly. 2 chances to be the father I wished I had. Charity smiled. Then promise me one thing. No matter how loud the world gets, this, she pointed around the quiet room, always comes first. I promise, he whispered. They sat together, the twins between them, the city humming far below. Somewhere out there, people were still gossiping, still guessing. But inside that glass-walled home, there was only peace, the kind that comes after truth wins. The sun over Seoul had never looked so golden. From the penthouse balcony, Charity watched the early morning light spill across skyscrapers like melted gold. The twins were 5 months old now, chubby, giggly, and inseparable. Their laughter filled every corner of the house, even when silence tried to creep in. Inside, the maids moved quietly, preparing breakfast while soft jazz played in the background. The once lonely penthouse now sounded like a home, with crying, cooing, and love. Charity sipped her green tea and smiled at the reflection of her new life. The girl who once took night shifts in a crowded hospital ward was now the mother of Seoul's most famous babies. But peace, she'd learned, always has a jealous twin. That afternoon, she and Jun-suk had a meeting at his company's headquarters. Reporters lined up outside the glass tower, cameras clicking like rain. The elevator ride to the top floor was quiet. Jun-suk's hand stayed on hers the whole way. "You sure you're okay being here again?" he asked softly. Charity nodded. "If I survived the public eye during labor, I can survive a boardroom." He smiled. "You really are fearless." "No," she said. "I'm just tired of fear pretending to be my friend." When the elevator doors opened, they stepped into the meeting room and immediately felt the chill. Every board member stood, forced smiles painted across their faces. Mr. Han, the vice president, spoke first. "Mr. Cha, Mrs. Cha, congratulations again. Korea can't stop talking about you too." "Thank you," Jun-suk replied coolly. "Let's talk business." As the meeting began, Charity sensed the tension, the whispers, the subtle glances. Some smiled at her success. Others envied it. She wasn't supposed to sit at that table, she could tell. She wasn't one of them. No rich family name, no designer legacy, just a nurse who turned a scandal into a miracle. But when she spoke about the company's new healthcare project, a charity fund for infertile couples, her voice melted the cold in the room. "Not everyone can afford hope," she said gently. "We can change that." By the end of her short presentation, even the coldest faces softened. Jun-suk looked at her like a man who had found the missing half of his soul. Later that night, Charity was bathing the twins when Jun-suk entered with his phone pressed to his ear. His face looked troubled. "Who was that?" she asked. "An old investor," he muttered. "He wants to meet about the rumors." "What rumors?" He hesitated. "They're saying you used fertility drugs illegally, that your pregnancy wasn't natural." Charity froze. "What?" He tossed the phone on the couch. "Someone leaked fake medical files to the tabloids. They claim you bribed doctors." Charity's hands trembled as she lifted one of the babies out of the water. "But we didn't." "I know," he interrupted softly. "But we have to stay calm. The media feeds on panic." Her throat tightened. She thought she'd already fought her biggest battle. But fame, she realized, doesn't bring peace. It brings new enemies. By morning, the internet exploded. #FakeMiracle trended across social media. Some commenters defended her. Others threw stones. "She trapped him." One tweet read, "No one goes from infertile to twins in a year," said another. Paparazzi swarmed the hospital where she once worked, chasing old colleagues for gossip. At the company lobby, Charity saw her own face on the front page of magazines. The same people who once celebrated her now tore her apart. She walked into Jun-suk's office, holding one of the newspapers. "They want a new scandal," she said bitterly. "They can't stand seeing a happy ending." He rose from his desk and pulled her into his arms. "Then let's not give them one. We'll hold a press conference. Together." 2 days later, Seoul's biggest news station hosted them live. Charity wore a sleek black dress and no jewelry. Her silence was her power. The host began sharply. "Mrs. Cha, the public wants to know. Did you use illegal fertility treatments?" She looked straight into the camera. "No. What I used was faith. Maybe not everyone believes in miracles, but that doesn't make them less real. I carried my children. I birthed them, and every mother knows. Truth doesn't need approval." A hush fell over the studio. Even the host looked moved. Then Jun-suk added, "People mocked me when I was called barren. Now they mock her for proving them wrong. The problem isn't truth. It's envy." The room erupted in applause. Social media flipped overnight. Hashtag Miracle Family replaced hashtag Fake Miracle. The same crowd that tried to destroy them now praised their courage. But one woman didn't clap. Somin, Jun Suk's ex-fiancé, who had once left him because of his infertility. Watching from her luxury apartment, she crushed her champagne glass in fury. She took everything, she hissed. The man, the fame, the story. Her assistant asked quietly, "Ma'am, should I proceed with the plan?" Somin smiled coldly. "Yes, if the world wants a scandal, I'll give them one." Meanwhile, at home, Charity and Jun-suk sat on the couch with the twins sleeping between them. The city glowed through the tall glass walls, but it wasn't the lights that warmed the room. It was their laughter. "I used to dream of peace," Charity whispered. "Now I just dream of quiet mornings like this." He kissed her forehead. "Then let's protect that dream." She smiled faintly. "Even if the world turns against us?" He looked at her, really looked, and said, "Then we'll make the world jealous of our peace." Outside, rain began to fall softly over Seoul. And in another part of the city, Somin's dark plan was already taking shape. The night was cold and merciless, the kind of night that whispered secrets through the wind. In a quiet corner of Seoul, Somin sat in front of her vanity mirror, her red lips curling into a wicked smile as she clicked upload. Within seconds, chaos was reborn. A video flooded every social platform. A blurred clip showing what appeared to be Jun-suk entering a hotel room with a woman who wasn't Charity. The caption read, "The infertile billionaire's real secret. Was it all a lie?" The internet went feral. Comment sections exploded. "So he cheated?" After she defended him. "I knew no man stays faithful to one woman forever. Maybe he's not even the father, just a cover-up billionaire." Within an hour, news anchors were analyzing it, influencers were posting reaction videos, and paparazzi were camping outside the Cha mansion again. Inside, Charity held one of the twins on her lap, scrolling through her phone with shaking hands. Her breath hitched, her heart thudded painfully in her chest. "Jun-suk," she whispered, voice trembling. What is this?" He walked into the living room, still in his white shirt from work, exhaustion written all over his face. He saw the screen and froze. "That's not me," he said immediately. "Charity, that's not me." "Then who is it?" she snapped. "The video it looks like you." He stepped closer, desperate, eyes pleading. "It's deepfake footage. Someone edited it. Look at the frame rate, the shadow. It's manipulated." But Charity couldn't hear logic over the storm inside her chest. "Why is it always us? Why can't people just let us live?" The twins began to cry. Jun-suk tried to reach for her hand, but she stepped back, tears streaming down her face. "I believe you," she whispered finally, voice breaking. "But I'm tired, Jun-suk. I'm so tired of fighting everyone." The next morning, tabloids screamed headlines. "The miracle couple in trouble. Charity leaves mansion after scandal." Paparazzi followed her as she left for work at the hospital. Cameras flashed. Microphones stretched toward her. "Mrs. Cha, is it true your husband cheated? Are the twins really his?" She stopped, her face calm but eyes fierce. "Tell your bosses to stop eating lies for breakfast. I'm a nurse, not your circus clown." Then she walked past them, head high. Even in pain, Charity was still. Inside the hospital, whispers filled the halls. Some nurses smiled out of pity, others out of mockery. Her friend Minji hurried to her. "Uni, don't mind them. Everyone knows how the media twists everything." Charity smiled weakly. "If I survive this one, I'm applying for sainthood." Minji chuckled softly, handing her a coffee. "You're stronger than Seoul, Charity." Meanwhile, at the Cha Corporation building, Jun-suk was tearing through files with his team of cyber experts. "Trace that upload," he ordered. "I don't care if it came from the moon. Find it." Hours later, the lead technician rushed in. "Sir, we found the IP address. It's registered to a Kim Somin." Jun-suk's blood ran cold. "Somin," he whispered. His past was haunting him again. He stood, jaw clenched. "Prepare the car." That evening, Somin was hosting a private event in her luxury penthouse. Influencers, photographers, and investors all sipping champagne. When the elevator opened, the room froze. Jun-suk stepped out, sharp in his black suit, eyes blazing like fire. So-min, he said quietly. You've gone too far. She smiled, feigning innocence. Jun-suk, darling, I just posted what the public deserves to know. You created a fake video. Did I? She purred. Or maybe the truth finally surfaced? He slammed a USB stick on her marble counter. That's a digital forensic report. Proves your video is a fake. And when the police see it, you'll lose more than followers. Her face faltered for a second, then hardened. You think she deserves you? She spat. That foreign woman? She'll never be accepted here. Jun-suk's voice turned calm, deadly calm. Love doesn't ask for permission. You should have known that before you lost it. The next day, Seoul woke up to another shock. K-model So-min arrested for cybercrime and defamation. Charity sat in her hospital locker room, scrolling through the news, her heart swelling with relief. Moments later, her phone buzzed. A message from Jun-suk. It's over. Come home. She smiled, tears filling her eyes. Home, she whispered. I almost forgot what that feels like. That night, the penthouse was glowing again. Soft jazz, warm lights, the twins giggling in their cribs. Jun-suk cooked dinner himself. Kimchi stew, slightly burnt but made with love. As they ate, Charity teased. You really can't cook to save your life. He grinned. I have money. I don't need talent. She laughed, the sound warm and healing. He grew quiet, watching her. You know what I realized through all this? What? That peace is a choice. And I choose you, over and over. Charity looked into his eyes. Those same eyes that once held loneliness now glowed with certainty. You better, she whispered playfully, because leaving me is not an option. He leaned forward and kissed her forehead gently. Never was.
Hello besties, when should I drop episode 2? Kindly like, subscribe and share.